Well, let's go ahead and do our phrase of the day. Me genoita, everybody. Me genoita. Me genoita. Who knows what that means? It means may it never happen. May it never be. Sometimes it's translated in the New Testament, God forbid. This is the strongest way of saying no in Greek. Paul uses this expression more than anyone in the New Testament. He says this, for example, he says, shall we continue in sin so that grace may abound? He says, as much as we sin, God's grace always increases beyond that. So shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? And he answers, me genoita, may it never be, and then explains why it should never be.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
John 13, washing disciples' feet. Is that the same thing Peter said to Jesus? Do you know?
Oh, I don't remember. No, that's a good question. I know what you're talking about.
Never in all eternity will you wash my feet? Because I know that's what that's what I've been told what the Greek says. I know the word eternity is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I just don't remember if that.
We should look that up sometime. Okay. Well, we're going on to chapter 16. We're at verbs now. We've done all of the noun declensions. You're done with that. We're still working on some pronouns. We've done most of those. Now we're on to verbs. So this is still third grade Greek. But it's an important step because you're going to now be able to translate real Greek sentences without having, Mounts won't have to any longer gloss the verbs for you. Okay? All right, so we've had a me. And we've conjugated it, right? Nouns have declensions, verbs have conjugations. So first, second, and third person, singular and plural. A me, what's next? A estin, esmin, este, asin. Okay, good. And it means I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, y'all are, they are. Okay, so you've got that. All right, we've also introduced you to several different terms associated with verbs. When we talk about time, the time of a verb, we're talking about when it happens, right? Past, present, or future. When we talk about voice, we're talking about the relationship between the subject and the verb. So active voice, the subject usually is performing the action. Passive, the subject receiving the action. Abby bit the sandwich. Active, Abby was bit by the sandwich. Passive. Okay? And then mood refers to the relationship between the verb and reality. What we call the indicative mood is the mood we'll be spending the rest of this semester on. It's the mood of fact or reality. So it's indicative because it indicates that which is or that which certainly will be. Okay? So in Greek, just like with nouns, you're going to have a stem. That's what carries the most basic meaning of the word. So loo is going to mean something like destroy. Often we just translate it loose, L-O-O-S-E. Then you're going to have what's called a connecting vowel, followed by what's called a personal ending. So loo, men, for example. That men, see, is similar to the first person plural in esmin. So that's the first person plural. We, loose. So in many cases, the subject is going to be embedded in the personal ending itself. Okay? With these personal endings, you're going to be learning 4 sets of personal endings. What we call the primary active, the primary middle passive, the secondary active, and the secondary middle passive. So how many endings is that going to be in all? 24, right? Because it's going to be 6, right? First, second, third person, singular, plural. 6, 6, 6, 6. So it won't be too bad. Don't worry. This is what's called the master personal ending chart. And Mounts is just going to be adding to it as we go. There's also going to be something called a master verb chart, which you should pay attention to as well. Okay, so here's how it works then. You got your stem. And we need our set of primary active personal endings. One way of looking at it is to say, here are the endings as they were originally. As they were in heaven, so to speak, because you never actually see it in exactly this form in real texts. So this is partly theoretical, and I'll show you what I mean. Don't write this down yet. Don't write down the paradigm yet. If we add these endings, this is what it would look like, right? What we're going to have to do is add our connecting vowel between the stem and personal ending, right? Okay, so here's the rule for the connecting vowel. It's either omicron or epsilon. It's omicron before mu or nu. Omicron before mu or nu. And it can be omicron also if there's no ending at all. Now, don't write this down yet, and you'll see why in a second. It's epsilon before everything else. Now, the problem is several of these are not going to look like this by the time everything is said and done. Remember when this happened with our nouns? There are these changes that are going to happen when the stem is attached to the endings. Omicron is going to lengthen to omega. Because there's no ending, it feels inadequate, right? This is what's called compensatory lengthening. It feels inadequate, and it goes to the gym, and what does it do? Develops a pair of pectoral muscles, okay? So it feels manly now. Okay, luo. Here, you're going to end up with a iota, and let's not worry about the reasons why it appears. Just know that a iota appears there. So we get luo, luase. Luase stays the same. Luamen stays. Luata stays. But what's the problem with this? Do you remember the rule? Nu before sigma drops out, and so now it's got to compensate because it feels inadequate, and it goes and develops a pair of lopsided pectoral muscles. Okay, so you end up with luusen. If we only underline the ones where a change has happened, in 3 cases the endings end up not looking like the endings that Mounce gives us, right? Which is a little frustrating. So there are 2 ways to approach this. Either memorize the endings and try to construct your verbs using them and remembering where the changes occur, or memorize the endings as what follows the lu. So in other words, just think of the endings as o, ace, a, amen, etta, usen. O, ace, a, say it. O, ace, a, amen, etta, usen. Amen, etta, usen. O, ace, a, amen, etta, usen. Again, o, ace, a, amen, etta, usen. Okay, so now how this works then is that if omega indicates that the verb is first person singular, now you know who the subject of that action is. Who's the subject of luo? I. So I loose, you loose, he, she, it looses, we loose, y'all loose, they loose. And that's how it works. Okay? So you are going to have to keep in mind that because the subject can be embedded in the ending, you might not have an explicit subject at all. Okay? So, for example, ego luo, there's your omega. The omega means what? I. What does ego mean? I. So it looks like you have I loose. That's redundant. You don't need to do that. What's really happening by putting that omega ending on there? It's just telling you that the verb goes with ego. This is what's called what? Agreement. Agreement in person between the subject and the personal ending of the verb. So ego luo would mean I loose. Luo would also mean what? I loose. The only difference is that this one places more emphasis on the I. I loose. Usually because it's being contrasted with something else or somehow making more prominent the I. So same thing if you had su lues. What does that mean? That means you. The ace means you. It's just you. Yeah, you loose or you are loosing. You don't have to repeat the you twice All the ending is doing is telling you, hey, the subject is the second person, so now I have to agree in my personal ending with that subject. Agreement between subject and verb and person. Even though you could just say, lues also means you loose, it just doesn't have the same emphasis on you. Okay? All right, questions about how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the connecting vowel, it says that if there is no personal ending, the connecting vowel can be either one. Do you want us to always use this term?
Yes.
Is there a way to tell?
In the present, in the first singular, that omicron it's always omicron, and it always turns into an omega. It's going to be later when we get to the other tenses where there's no ending and it's going to be an epsilon. So it's always consistent.
Okay, because right here it says it could
Yeah.
be either.
Yeah, that's right.
When you were talking about memorizing the endings as they appear with the, I guess, exceptions, so is that the case for, when you memorize those exceptions, is that the case for verbs that end in, like, that certain vowel? Or what's the distinction?
No, these are going to be the endings for everything that is present, active, indicative. It's all verbs is going to look like that. Well, that's just, in the next chapter we're going to see there's something called contract verbs where the vowels contract and it makes it look a little bit different. But this is the normal pattern for all verbs. So let me go ahead and get you to do this then. See if you can conjugate Ikuo in the present active indicative. In your notes is fine. Conjugate Ikuo in the present active indicative. Okay? So what's your stem? Aku. Endings? O, ace, a, amen, etus. And so that's pretty straightforward, right? And this is why I think it's helpful to draw the line so you don't get sloppy on sort of where the stem ends and where the endings begin. It's the same pattern. Drop the omega, that's your stem. Aku, and then just add your oase, a, amen, etus. And so I hear, you hear, he hears. Have you had Ikuo yet? This is where we get the word acoustics. Right? If a room has good acoustics, it handles sound well. Okay.
So the third person plural would have the two omicron?
The third person plural? Is that what you said?
Like, it looks odd.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so.
It does look odd, but that's where it is aku usin. Because usin's the ending and aku is the stem. So, yeah. Thanks for asking. Okay. One more thing to show you why it can be important to think about agreement between subject and verb. This is kind of a nonsense sentence, but I'm just making a point. Where's your verb? Lue. What person and number is that? Third singular. So what's the subject? Okay, now look for the he, she, or it. Subjects are in what case? Nominative. So this is where, remember our rules for translating a sentence? Verb first, respect the endings. Why do you start at the verb first? Because it gives you important information about the subject. Here that it's third singular. But now we got to look and see if a nominative exists with which that personal ending is simply agreeing, right? Now, which of those two can be our subject and which cannot? Soma can be the subject. Why? Okay, it's nominative. What case is pneumata? Okay, that can also be nominative. So this is the point. When we talk about agreement, they have to agree in person and number. So if this has a singular personal ending, the nominative subject must be singular. Only one of these can be singular. Which one is it? Soma is singular, whereas that could be nominative or accusative, plural. So which one is your subject? Soma. Okay? So that's where agreement can come in handy too. Both of these can be nominative, but it's your personal ending that helps you determine which one of them is in fact nominative. Got it? Singular, singular. Questions about that? It's, like I said, it's kind of a nonsense sentence, but what does it say? Subject. A body looses spirits. A body looses spirits. Now, if we had changed it to this, you still have nominative singular, right? And what could be nominative or accusative plural. But look at the personal ending. Third person plural, so the subject must be, yeah, this is actually nominative plural this time. This could be nominative or accusative, but it's singular. And so it can't be the subject. So what does this sentence say? The spirits or spirits loose a body. I don't know, that means, I don't know what that means. Because I can't think of any situation where that would happen. I've never seen it happen.
What exactly does the verb
To loose. Yeah, it has to do with, yeah, it can be to loosen, to release. It can be to destroy. It has a very wide semantic range. But this is actually where we get our word dissolve. Zolve has that same, the LV or LU has to do with like disintegrating something, right? Is one kind of connotation it can have. So to loosen, to destroy, to release. So it can be positive or negative in that sense. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if you can do this. For each of these sentences, I want you to write it in Greek two different ways. Write it in Greek two different ways. The verbs are going to be lego and ikuo, right? Lego means to speak, ikuo means to hear. So they speak, you hear, you all speak. Which one do we not have yet? Yes. Two different ways for each of them. Okay. You may not have gotten through all of them. Let's just do them together. They speak. Let's see if we can go around. Peter, what would they speak be? Legousen? Well, how do you find the stem? You drop the omega, and there's your stem. So leg, what's your third person plural ending? Usen. So leg, usen. They speak. Okay? There's another way to do it, though. Jessica, do you know?
That would be use the actual, but I can't remember.
The pronoun. Yeah, you would use the pronoun. Anybody? Autoi if it's men. Autoi legusen. Right? And what's the difference? Well, only that this one emphasizes the they a little more. Okay? You hear. Philip? Okay, akues. Aku is your stem. Ace is your ending. You hear. And what's the other way to do it? Yeah. Su akues. Okay? You all speak. Well, Marcus?
The stem for Lego.
Okay, which is? Okay, leg, yeah. Ete, legete. You all speak. And how would we do it the other way? Humes, sumon, humen. So humes would be the nominative. Humes legata. Okay? I speak. Anybody? Lego. Or ego Lego. Lego my ego. Okay. We hear. Ikuo men, or hemes, hemon, hemen, hemas. So, hemes, Ikuo men. And then last, he speaks, lege, or autas lege. All right, you get the concept? The subject and the personal ending have to agree, but that doesn't mean that you have to translate it twice. Okay? All right. Very good. Let's go over the vocabulary, but I got to show you one thing about the verbs there. This is on page 137. If you look at the first verb, Ikuo, go over to the right, it tells you it means I hear, learn. Right below that, it lists a bunch of forms that look similar to Ikuo. You see that? Including one in parentheses. Okay, these are what are called principal parts. Principal parts. The principal parts basically give you, well, they're not using akusamai. They're just going to use akuso. Okay. The principal parts give you the basic form of a verb in each tense in which you find it. So we've just learned the present tense. The next one, not in parentheses, is the future tense, and then you're going to get several different past tenses and so on. That's what you're looking at. So you want to put those on your card. And it's not a bad idea to start to try to learn them. Ikuo, akuso, akusa, akekua, akus thing, like that. Because eventually, once we get through the other tenses, once we get through the future and the aorist and the perfect, you're going to need to know them then. And you're just going to have to go back and add them to your flashcards if you don't do it now. Okay? Put them on there. They're not going to mean anything to you yet, but just you'll have them there. Know that this is the first principal part. This is the second principal part. This is not considered the second principal part. The one in parentheses is just a variation on the first principal part. And that's why it's in parentheses. Make sense? Okay. Here we go. Ikuo. Blepo. Echo. Lego. Lego Mago. Luo. Hanamas Namu. Hapu. Pistuo. Okay, so it's good to, this is a very regular verb in terms of its principal parts. Let's go through all of them. Pistuo. Pistuso. Epistusa. Papistuka. Papistumai. Epistuthane. Epistuoff. Okay. Ta prasupan prasopu. That means face, and I don't remember why this was a mnemonic that was ever used by anybody, but they said, oh, it's like prosopon face, pour soap on my face. And so they always imagined they were like in the shower pouring soap on their face. So, all right, tate. Not tote. If you say totes, I'm going to kick you out of the class. Tu floss, tu flay, tu flan.
Tu floss, tu flay, tu flan.
Hey, kara, karas.
Hey, kara, karas.
All right, there you go. Look, we're moving along. 68%. So the other day when we translated from the Lord's Prayer, and you thought, wow, I know these words. Actually, you probably knew 68% of the words. Something like that, because you knew all the articles and all the kais. Throw a little pater in there, and you're at about 2/3 of the words. Okay, very good. Let's do some worky booky.